Okay, let's just jump right in. We are all living through this massive AI hype cycle, right? Billions of dollars are being poured in, and we keep hearing these promises that it's going to change, well, everything. But here's the thing about these big tech bubbles. They all kind of follow a pattern. And if you want to understand what might happen next with AI, we're going to look back at a story that feels, honestly, strangely familiar. The long, super awkward, and in the end, very successful journey of the mobile internet. Oh man, does anybody remember this thing? The Nokia N-Gage. This was supposed to be the future of mobile gaming. Instead, it became this legendary flop, famous for making you look like you were holding a taco to your head every single time you made a call. This beautiful disaster is the perfect symbol for the early days of mobile internet. It was a time of wild ideas, really clumsy execution, and a total misunderstanding of what people actually want. So, let's go back to the early 2000s. Mobile internet was the buzzword, exactly like AI is today. The belief was absolute. A revolution was coming, and we'd all be living our lives through our phones. A digital gold rush was officially on, and every single company was racing to stake its claim. And they really, truly put their money where their mouths were. I mean, between 2000 and 2001, European telecoms spent over $100 billion, and that was just on 3G licenses. It was a staggering bet that super-fast mobile internet was about to take over the world like tomorrow. But here's the punchline to the whole story. They built it, and nobody came. Seriously, the networks were there, all that money had been spent, but customers they weren't interested. The mobile web they were offering was clunky, it was slow, it was expensive. The gold rush had basically hit a brick wall. So what went wrong? Well, it turns out the entire industry was obsessed with solving problems that customers didn't actually have. They were so focused on their own vision of what the future should be that they completely missed the point of what people wanted. And this slide, it just says it all. On the left, you see Nokia's whole strategy back in 2006. Funky colors and plastic covers you could swap out. It was all about fashion. But on the right, you have the iPhone. It wasn't about the color, it was about a completely revolutionary user experience. While the rest of the industry was busy selling decorations, Apple was building a gateway to the real internet. And this just shows you exactly where their heads were at. Instead of a smooth, easy user experience, their focus was on things like these super complicated systems just to buy a single song, or these ugly, closed-off internet portals, and of course, those colorful covers. They were solving for control and ownership, not for simplicity and access. You know, this was the actual reaction inside the mobile industry when Apple announced the iPhone in 2007. They literally laughed at it. They were so sure they knew what customers wanted, physical buttons, colorful plastic, that they just couldn't see the revolution that was staring them right in the face. And the shift, when it came, was absolutely brutal and fast. In 2007, Nokia was the undisputed king of the world, with a massive 40% of the global market. Then the iPhone arrived. And just a few years later, Nokia's empire had completely crumbled. It just goes to show you how quickly an industry giant can become a footnote when they miss a fundamental change. So this gets to the heart of it. The iPhone and the whole ecosystem that grew up around it, it represented this huge mental shift. We moved from a world where you had to own your content, like buying a song for $1, to a world where you just needed access to it. Think about streaming anything you want on Spotify. That change in thinking, it changed everything. But here is the real key takeaway from this whole story. That mobile internet bubble, it didn't burst with a loud pop like the dot-com crash. Nope. Something much more interesting happened. It slowly deflated, and then it reshaped itself. We call this bubble deflation. It's this process where all the initial hype just kind of fades away, expectations get a lot more realistic, and the technology quietly finds its real, sustainable purpose. The crazy thing is, that initial investment isn't completely lost. It just gets repurposed for a future that nobody saw coming. And here's pretty much how that process works. First, you get that massive investment in 3G networks, all for this one specific vision of the mobile internet. Then that vision fails, the hype fades. But then, years later, the iPhone and the App Store show up, the right product, the right business model, and all of a sudden, all those underused 3G networks become the essential foundation for this new reality, unlocking their true value. So, a massive investment in infrastructure that runs years ahead of a proven business model, with everyone convinced it will change the world. Does any of that sound familiar? Let's bring this back to today and look at the parallels with AI. Right now, tech giants are spending over $200 billion a year on AI infrastructure. We're talking chips, data centers, the whole shebang. It's an arms race that makes that 3G rollout look small. The bet is even bigger this time around.
You have to admit, the parallels are pretty striking. You've got the big bet on infrastructure. You've got the identical hype that it's going to change everything. And then you have the crucial risk. Are companies today building what customers actually need, or are they just building the AI equivalent of colorful phone covers? Just features bolted on for the sake of hype.
So here's the ultimate lesson from the whole mobile internet saga. The core technology, the networks, the chips, the data centers, eventually it just becomes a utility, kind of like electricity. It's essential for sure, but it's not where the real magic happens. The real lasting value gets created by what people build on top of that foundation to solve actual real-world problems. Which brings us right back to today. The AI hype, it will eventually settle down. A reckoning will come, whether it's a loud pop or that slow deflation we talked about. So the truly interesting question isn't if that will happen, but what comes after. What is the iPhone moment for AI going to look like, and who's out there building